Hello, everybody. In the next few weeks, Y Marks will be discussing a range of questions around the July 4 general elections, including the attitude of the Chartists, Marx, and the Bolsheviks to electoral questions. You can join our regular open meetings every Thursday PM by following this link. Today, we're talking about Diane Abbott. There's been quite the Westminster drama about the long-time MP for Hackney North and Stoke Newington. Of course, what is left of the left in around the Labour Party is up in arms against the apparent decision to ban her from standing again. She's only just been let back into the Parliamentary Labour Party after her comments in a letter to The Guardian about white people, like Jews, not experiencing racism all their lives, as she said. And equated redheads with the very real systematic discrimination that, for example, travelers experience, yes, all their lives. Of course, this was interpreted as anti-Semitic. We would put it more in the stupid category, which is where, of course, most charges of anti-Semitism should have actually landed. Even Angela Rayner and Jess Phillips have just come out in her defense, calling for her to be able to stand. And it's quite troubling, I think, to see large full-page commentary in right-wing papers like the Daily Mail and the Times defending her. Suddenly, they're complaining about a purge in the Labour Party. None of them complained, of course, when thousands were thrown out of the party on false charges of anti-Semitism. Quite the opposite. They celebrated it. What do you think this is all about, Ian?
From the point of view of the Tory right, I mean, this is a nice opportunity to have a go at Starmer, because he comes across as utterly cruel, racist, and also dishonest. Because there were times when he was talking about what process was going on, and we had to wait for the full process to go through. Clearly, there was no process whatsoever. There'd been an arbitrary decision just to keep the left-wing woman out, the left-wing black woman out, the first black woman to be elected to Parliament out. Whether there was ever an agreement for her to just sort of retire with dignity or whatever, if she could be allowed back into the Labour Party, I've no way of knowing. All I know is that when I saw her speaking on the telly, addressing a meeting, she was adamant that she was going to stand come what may. And of course, that will have made Starmer and his acolytes rather nervous, I think. The other thing about her is that she is something of a fighter. While she's been pretty useless in terms of standing up against the right wing in the sort of phony anti-Semitism scare, she, in the past at least, has been something of a fighter, and therefore I suspect is determined not to just go down, not just to sort of go quietly into the night, as it were.
Like the rest of the socialist campaign group of Labour MPs, she was very quiet during the Corbyn years, we should say. And, you know, we have to be honest about this. The witch hunt against the left, against the Corbyn left, really got underway under Jeremy Corbyn. He and his General Secretary, Jenny Formby, went out of their way to show that they're taking action against anti-Semitism, publicly hounding a number of prominent left-wing activists like Tony Greenstein, Mark Wadsworth, Jackie Walker, Ken Livingstone, and the only Labour MP with a spine, Chris Williamson. It was shown in the leaked report how they hounded them proudly. You know, they introduced fast-track expulsions, etc., etc. Two of the most worst witch hunters were the two Johns, two key Corbyn supporters, John Landsman, founder of Momentum and now a member of the openly Zionist Jewish Labour movement, and John McDonnell, MP, who argued for zero tolerance when it comes to charges of anti-Semitism. I throw people out straight away. He refused to stand with longtime comrades who were purged, many of whom have known him for decades. He's still ridiculously the president of the Labour Representation Committee, despite the fact that almost its entire leadership and many of its members were hounded out of the party as anti-Semites.
Corbyn had an opportunity. He had an opportunity to not only to dismiss the whole anti-Semitism nonsense for what it is, just a complete red herring. I've lost count of the number of times I've been called anti-Semitic because I was critical of Israel. This is a huge lie. It's one that's been going on for years and years, and he had that opportunity. Moreover, he had the opportunity to actually seize the Labour Party with nearly 500,000 members and use it to the good. But instead, just believing that somehow if you just can give yet another concession if you just roll over one more time, that somehow they'll leave you alone. Just shows you just how stupid that was. Corbyn should have done to the right exactly what Starmer is currently doing to the left. And he wouldn't have even had to have done it in such a cruel way. He wouldn't have even had to actually expel people. All he would have had to have done is to open the Labour Party up to its own internal democracy and say that each constituency Labour Party can choose, can reselect its own MPs. They are, after all, the representatives that are sent to Westminster to represent the party. Not every right-wing person would have been kicked out, but at least it would have given an opportunity to people who were more than just simply career opportunists, career politicians, to be selected by constituency Labour parties. And on the basis of that, the Labour Party could, of 500,000 members, could have been transformed into a force for good.
There were some right wingers in the bureaucracy as well. I think that should have been cleared as well. Regional structures, for example, who select the candidates as well, shortlist, etc. What about then the anti-Semitism big lie? I mean, that is still now spreading further and further in society. We're now seeing it taking hold of the Green Party, where they're being cleared off. So it wasn't just all about getting rid of Corbyn, though it was that as well, but it is about silencing critics of Israel. What does that mean now in terms of the left, in your view, and the attitude towards the Labour Party in the general elections? Can we actually vote for Starmer's Labour? It's now firmly in the grip of the right. Though we have to say unions remain affiliated, and that makes it, many believe, I believe that as well, it's still a bourgeois workers' party. It's still got a bourgeois pole and a left pole, although the bourgeois pole is now much bigger. Whether the class struggle plays out with the unions being affiliated. Some groups like the Alliance for Workers' Liberty, pro-imperialist organization, calling for a vote for Labour everywhere. Counterfire, the split from the Socialist Workers' Party, is not quite so open, supports a small number of independents, but also is saying, in general, we would rather have a Labour government in office than a Tory one. How do you see that?
Speaking personally, I'll be voting for anyone who stands openly as a socialist. Now, it may be that it's possible to vote Labour in whatever constituency. If I was in Sarah Sultana's constituency, I would be voting for her, irrespective of Tusk putting up a candidate, for example. My theory is that, of course, there'll be left groups standing against one another. I think the important thing is to vote on a class basis, and the important thing is to get Tories out.
What do you think about asking questions of candidates? Like, for example, John McDonnell is, officially still on the left. Should we approach him with some critical questions?
Take every opportunity to embarrass the hell out of every single one of them. Are they in favour of sending arms to Israel or not? It's as simple as that. Are they prepared to sign off export licenses from Israeli arms companies operating openly in Britain? And if they say yes, they're going to do that, then don't vote for them. We're voting against genocide in this election.
What kind of matters more than a Tory or Labour government? I mean, there are, as George Galloway not entirely wrong puts it, two cheeks of the same bum. Matters. What kind of matters more is our position. The position of the left. And we are still, and unfortunately, the socialist left is incredibly weak and divided.
The election is an opportunity for the left to begin to coalesce. At the moment, they're all over the place, and there'll be situations where the Tusk are standing against the Workers' Party and things. Absolutely ridiculous. That's a process that will change as Labour takes power, and undoubtedly will start to implement exactly the same kind of policies that the Tory party is doing. You only have to listen to Wes Streeting talking about the importance of allowing private healthcare to pick up the slack in the NHS. It's nonsense. It's unachievable. And wherever and whenever possible, all it will do is enrich the private healthcare companies. We're not going to see anything remarkably different in a Labour government than a Tory government, except they may be marginally less corrupt at the edges. But undoubtedly, Labour will continue with many of the same policies. And on that basis, the left will need to coalesce after the election. And I'm sure they will do, because it's not just about the left groupuscules of one sort or another. The working class itself will have to continue to fight, and will have to continue to fight against the Labour government, and a Labour government still formally linked to the trade union movement. And so when those trade unions are striking against a Labour government, when it's a Labour government telling junior doctors they have to continue to take pay cuts, let's see what happens then. And on that basis, it may be possible for a genuine left to coalesce.
And would fight for that left to be principled, politically transparent, democratic, but also formed on the basis of the need for socialism and spelling out what socialism is. I think most of the groups that exist today don't really do that. Thank you, Ian. Comrades, join us. You can join us every Thursday, 7 p.m. to discuss the elections and much more. Bye-bye.